Daddy's Boy is a short foster care memoir from Casey Watson. This was originally released in 2016, and it's about this little boy called Paulie. And Paulie is 5 years old and has the mouth of a teenager. And honestly, I feel like this story kind of feels a little bit pointless. It's not that it wasn't an interesting read as such, but when I got to the end of it, I thought, how can that be it? What have we learned? What have we gained? What veil has been lifted on a certain kind of situation? And it also kind of suggested that if you misbehave, you get what you want. Not with Paulie, but with somebody else. But that's a spoiler, so I will discuss that with a spoiler warning in a moment. But it's very brief, mostly because Casey is only looking after Paulie for a very short period of time. And basically, Paulie's parents, well, his mother and stepfather, have taken him to social services and said, here you go, I can't cope with him anymore. And then the story never really looks at why he's misbehaving. It never really looks at what the future care plan might be. We don't really learn anything. And we never really gain any knowledge about Paulie as a character other than his behaviour is unpredictable, and that's it. And it's like the story serves no purpose. And yes, one could argue that it exists just to tell the story, but it's the first time I've read any foster care memoir in the 60-ish that I've read where there's no progression, where it's just, okay, this is a child we fostered, this is what the child was like, end of story. And that's it. There's no progression, there's no development, there's no fascinating insight about why Paulie behaved the way he did or what his future might look like. It's very much, this is what we did for a couple of days. Enjoy the story. And yeah, the actual, each page of the book was quite interesting, but at the end I was left feeling very, very unfulfilled and also kind of annoyed. And this is a spoiler, so the last thing I have to say about this, because really there's no more substance to the book. There really isn't anything else to say other than this one point. So this is a spoiler for something that happened and that could have been interesting had they expanded on it or looked into, certain people's behaviours. But spoilers from now, at some point in the book, Paulie's father, his birth father, turns up at Casey's doorstep. How did he get the address? I don't know. It was never really questioned in the book. And he starts banging on the window, and then the social worker goes outside, he gets punched in the face. Mike arrives at an inopportune time, he gets punched, and then the police arrive, take the father away, and then 3 or 4 pages later, and obviously this is of course again a spoiler for what happens next, but Paulie is leaving Casey's care. And it's unclear why this was. To me, I thought it would have been because his father now knew where he lived and it wouldn't be safe. But that was never addressed in the book. We had to kind of just come to our own conclusions. And then Casey was telling Paulie, okay, you'll get to see your father soon. They'll set up some supervised visits. And basically what we had as a reader is his father committing physical assaults in front of, well, in theory, in front of his son. Paulie couldn't actually see most of what was going on. And then 3 or 4 pages later, they were setting up supervised visits. So as a reader, all we get is commit physical assaults, get access to your child. That's a terrible message. A horrendous message. He did have to write a letter of apology, expressing allegedly sincere regret and remorse about what he did, but anybody can fake that. So honestly, the message there is actually pretty terrible, and there were so many questions and no answers, and I feel like we never learned anything other than throw your fist around and you get what you want. So it's not really a very good read, and it's not very well written. The grammar's not that great either. Casey Watson's books over the years have improved in terms of the grammar, either because they put better editors on them or just people are learning grammar better. I don't know. But certainly these older ones are not the best written in terms of the grammar, and this one just offers nothing. So page by page, it's quite interesting. But as a whole, as a half an hour-ish read, it just feels really pointless. It doesn't provide any education, it's not eye-opening, it's not insightful, and it has some pretty poor messages about how to behave to get what you want. So Daddy's Boy is not one if I know if I should recommend it, because, as I said, each page that I read was okay, but as a whole, it maybe had some problems. So I don't know. It's not the best. If it's the only Casey Watson book you have left to read, give it a go, complete the set. But if you've never read anything by Casey Watson, I'd say stay away from it for now. It's not a typical example of the kind of quality we can get from Casey Watson, which is a good thing, but it's definitely not one that I'd be reading again.